The Pittsburgh Steelers pulled out another preseason win with a 24-16 victory over the Philadelphia Eagles. But the big news of the night was, of course, their trade to get linebacker Joe Schobert of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm Chris Carter of the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm going to start off by breaking down that trade. Then we'll get into the top takeaways of the Steelers preseason win over the Eagles. It was a big and interesting night in the Steelers preseason. Let's get into it.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can watch us on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really helps us out. Also, you can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and the app Odyssey, Audacy Odyssey. And remember, if you rate us 5 stars with a positive comment on Apple Podcasts, you do get a shout-out at the end of the show. Thanks to all those who have done that so far. But yes, I know the Steelers played in the preseason. We saw some Najee Harris. We saw some Dwayne Haskins. We saw some offensive line work. I'll get into all that later in the show. But we cannot start this show without talking about the biggest thing that happened in this night, and that was Joe Schobert being the trade target of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is now coming via wire trade. Now, we do not know as of this very moment, and I must be very candid, I'm recording shortly after this game. But at this point in time, it is not known what the Steelers traded to get Joe Schobert. I saw speculation about, was it James Washington because he didn't play? Was it Benny Snell because he didn't play? No, those guys are hurt. We will see what it was that was offered there. I imagine it would probably be some picks or something along the lines. The Jaguars are a rebuilding team. They still have a long ways to go, even though they got Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne and their guys from this past draft. But for those who are probably thinking, okay, Joe Schobert, who's he? Well, if you don't know, he's an experienced NFL linebacker coming from the Jaguars. Used to play for the Browns, was drafted by them in the 4th round of 2017, and was a Pro Bowler, 4th round of 2016, apologies. But he was a Pro Bowler in 2017. And during that time, he kind of had to find his way with the Browns and figuring out where he fit in. But over the last 2 years, he has emerged as a decent cover linebacker. During that time, though, the past 2 years split between the Jaguars and the Browns, he's been able to nab 7 interceptions and had 13 official pass breakups, according to Pro Football Reference. Those are impressive numbers for a linebacker over the middle, and we know that is a primary concern for the Steelers moving forward. Now, one of the notes of the game that we'll get to later is that the Steelers linebackers didn't look all that great in this last game. Devin Bush didn't look great in coverage. They were kind of figuring themselves out, though. You gotta remember this was his first preseason appearance or any appearance in a game since he tore his ACL last year. So he's getting his feet under him. I'll tell you that he has looked good in practice. But Robert Spillane, not so much. There was a blitz where he came in and he got pancaked and walloped by a running back. Ulysses Gilbert had a couple moments, but wasn't wowing anybody. And this move kind of solidifies that Kevin Colbert knows they need to beef up the middle of the field. They need to get some help there because even if, say, Devin Bush goes down, he's the only guy you're pretty much trusting in coverage back there. But with Joe Schobert, he can maybe add to the coverage. Now, I'm not going to come out here and try to lie to you all and say that Joe Schobert is, an all-pro linebacker coming over to take over the position and, be the huge piece that the Steelers needed. It's going to take some fitting in. According to Pro Football Focus, they rated him back in 2018 as one of the best cover linebackers in football. They gave him a grade of like 87.7, but last year was his worst graded coverage year with 43.1 as far as their grades on coverage. Now, you all know how I feel about Pro Football Focus. Great for hard stats, so on ratings. But when you look at the numbers, he gave up the second highest percentage of completions last year in his career, with 78.9% on 56 catches allowed on 71 targets for 616 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, he also threw in 3 interceptions with that year. So that's an interesting mix for what the Steelers are going to need moving forward. This, to me, is a move that says, hey, we know we need help. The Steelers need to get some reinforcements in that linebacker group. And man, that might have been the move. There was some belief that, hey, maybe Robert Spillane could fill into that role. And when Robert Spillane plays in his lane, when he's right in as the hug blitzing, and the underneath guy that can help in that fashion, okay, solid. But when you ask him to start running all over the field, he might make a couple plays for you, but it's going to be tough for him to be consistent in a role that he's not consistently used to. Joe Schobert, however, different story. Now, we still have to see what the Steelers gave up to get this guy. And this is a man who's basically on a 2-year deal or so with the Jaguars, and I think there's some void years involved in that. Who knows? It's also, void years are just a weird concept to me in general. But the point being, Joe Schobert's current deal shouldn't crush the Steelers. We will see what the final terms were of the deal. But I do see this as a move that could solidify the defense. If Joe Schobert can just be a decent cover linebacker, if he can just be a solid guy to play next to Devin Bush so that they can sub in Spillane and Gilbert and maybe Buddy Johnson and maybe Marcus Allen, that's going to be a huge boost to the defense, because now you're looking at maybe not a position of weakness, maybe a position of adequacy. Just, hey, you're not, this isn't a great spot of the defense, but it's a solid spot. And then that allows the great spots of the defense that are there, like TJ Watt, like Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joe Hayden, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, maybe even Alice Highsmith. When you have solid role players fitting those other roles, it allows the superstars to go be superstars. And that is why I think Joe Schobert is such an important move for the Steelers, because they need more role players who are going to fit the roles that this defense needs to put itself together. So, big move there. I'm sure we're nowhere near done talking about that this week. It'll come up a lot more. We'll get to see him in training camp this weekend. And this week in total, I'll be able to talk more about that when I get to see him in some Steelers practice uniforms. So stay tuned for the Locked On Steelers podcast in the future to see more reports on that. We're going to get to this Steelers preseason game, because I know there's some of you that really want to talk about some of the performances you saw, maybe by a quarterback or someone. I don't know. It was just all over Twitter. But I wanted to first talk to you guys about our great sponsors at Built Bar, because if you want a healthy treat that tastes like a candy bar, or a healthy treat that tastes like a candy bar, Built Bar is the protein bar for you. It's the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team, and it comes in so many different flavors. Whether you want a fruity snack like raspberry, strawberry, or orange, or something different like salted caramel, cookies and creams, or a new flavor, Rocky Road, or my personal favorite, double chocolate, Built Bar has all the flavors that you can enjoy. And the best part, they're all healthy. They range from 130 to 180 calories with 17 to 18 grams of protein and only 4 to 5 grams of sugar and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. That's a tasty and healthy snack that'll save you from eating the snack you'll regret later and stay on task with anyone's diet. Order today and get your favorite flavor delivered right to your door by going to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED 15, all capital letters, all one word, LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order at built.com. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter. We are keeping it rolling here. So, full disclosure, it's late Thursday night. I'm recording in my studio here. And, man, that was a very interesting game, wasn't it? Because the offense came out, looked like it was moving in the first few drives, had some crucial holding penalties, you could say, that were kind of ticky-tack, and then they got stalled. And then the offense came out a couple drives later with Dwayne Haskins and went ballistic. In this game, They punted 4 straight times. And then the first the 3 of those drives were Mason Rudolph. One of those drives was Dwayne Haskins. But the next 4 drives for Dwayne Haskins were a touchdown drive, another touchdown drive, and a field goal. All in all, that's what you want from Dwayne Haskins. Now, in this game, Dwayne Haskins finished with 16 completions on 22 attempts for 161 yards, one passing touchdown for a passer rating of 108.3. Now, I know a lot of people are coming away from this game and just thinking like, man, oh, well, it's definitely him. He's the number 2 quarterback now, right? There's no question. Mason Rudolph, his drives haven't gotten a touchdown yet. I'd say hold your horses. I will say this. He narrowed the gap considerably. Anyone who was saying, oh, no, there's still a lot of stuff that we're not seeing, everyone could see how comfortable Dwayne Haskins looked. He was on the run. He was throwing the ball while moving. He was processing the defense. And his touchdown pass came on a play where he drew the defense off sides, recognized that, and then make sure he took a shot at the end zone, found a wide open man for a score. Completed a couple deep balls as well. Really interesting stuff here from Dwayne Haskins that I thought really shined through. And again, Mason Rudolph didn't look bad. If 2 of his drives didn't have holding penalties that set them back to 1st and 20, they probably get touchdowns or at least points on the board in those drives. Mason finished 8 of 9 for 77 yards, did get sacked once, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And he threw a nice 33-yard gain on a pass. But those are solid numbers. It's not saying that Mason Rudolph stunk. You know, I see this a lot on Twitter. A lot of people out here going, oh, man, Dwayne Haskins, got to put him over. And I'm like, listen, I'm all for the Dwayne Haskins hype. I get it. He has a powerful arm. He's a different guy. There's a new pedigree there. He actually was a first-round pick, unlike, Mason Rudolph, who some people said there was a first-round grade on him. This is different. I get Steelers fans are anxious to find the successor to Ben Roethlisberger. I get that. But, like I've told you all throughout training camp, right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, it's never just about one preseason game. Now, one preseason game can be enough to push you over when you're neck and neck. But when there's a competition between 2 guys for a position, the preseason game goes on top of a body of work that you put on all throughout training camp and the other preseason games. Now, I'd be here to say that I think that Mason and Dwayne were neck and neck in the first preseason game. I'd give the edge slightly to Mason in that game. But not in this game. Now, again, Mason didn't do anything wrong. I thought he was fine in this game. That was good backup quarterback job. And maybe it's a little unfair to Dwayne Haskins because the running game really came alive while he was in there. But you can't ignore results that he was able to move the ball, convert on 3rd down, make plays there. Those were the things that I thought were really impressive, was that he looked composed, in the pocket, moving around, buying time, cycling through his progressions. Really solid NFL quarterback things, not just taking the obvious thing that's there before pre-snap, but taking his time after the ball is snapped to process what's going on the field and make things happen. Now, the other parts of the offense that I thought were very impressive. 1, Jalen Samuels showed up, 10 carries, 45 yards, and a touchdown. Solid night for him. He got the bulk of the carries on Thursday night. But I will say this. I do think that, some people were like, man, wow, they gave him a good shot there. There might have been a little bit of hey, let's show this guy off a little bit and see if someone wants to trade for him. But it also might have been because Betty Snell and Kalen Ballage are just hurt right now, and they're not playing, so they needed a fresh body out there, and they didn't want to give Najee all the carries. By the way, Najee, 2 carries, 10 yards, solid job, looked confident. Don't need to see much more from him. Other guys who I thought ran well, Pete Guerrero came in with 7 carries for 20 yards, had some really good stuff there. Tony Brooks-James, 9 carries for 51 yards. Anthony McFarland Jr., 9 carries, 34 yards, and a touchdown. And I thought his touchdown was a little late of him recognizing it, but he did a good job and by keeping his feet going, and he made it happen. But I think the biggest winners of this night was the offensive line, and particularly two offensive linemen that played on the second team. And that was Dan Moore Jr. and Kevin Dotson. Now, Dan Moore Jr. started last week too against the Eagles, but he was struggling all throughout camp. Not all throughout camp, just when he matched up with Alex Highsmith, who we could see is a problem to match up with. But I thought he looked very solid against the Cowboys in the Hall of Fame game, and I thought he looked even more solid against the Eagles. A guy blocking out in space, a guy dominating his point. You could see him collapsing the line of scrimmage from that left tackle position, really bringing some nastiness to the offensive line. Kevin Dotson, same thing. There were a couple plays where I thought, he looked like he didn't connect on exactly what he wanted to connect on, but you could see the physicality working in, and you could see as the game went on that offensive line just kept bullying, and they started to put together the blocks that were able to spring some of those bigger runs. I mean, Jalen Samuels, there was a couple runs where he just kind of ran forward. He didn't need to really process what's going on. It was just there. And those are the things you want to see out of the offensive line. There was no Zach Banner. He didn't play. He came out, warmed up before the game, went back in, didn't wear any pads. Trey Turner did play. I also feel like the Steelers' offensive line, it's tough to punish the first team or get on the first team when the two holding penalties were kind of ticky-tack. One of them was by Pat Freiermuth. But either way, this was the game to see if Kevin Dotson understood that he has to earn the job to get back with the first team. That's another part of this. The first team offense had Rashad Coward. Maybe it's different with Kevin Dotson. But now there's opening the door for the potential of Dan Moore Jr. maybe battling one of the tackles for their starting spots. If he keeps producing like this in the preseason, maybe that's a conversation we need to visit. But all in all, I thought it was a very, very solid job by those two offensive linemen. Dwayne Haskins shining bright in the night to be able to show that he maybe he deserves some reps with the first team in a future preseason game. And I thought that Najee Harris, Jalen Samuels, the running backs in general, did a solid job representing. We're going to take another quick break here. When I come back, I want to get back to talking about the defense, because to me, the defense started off a little slow. They let up one touchdown, but that was just it. They let up one touchdown. I mean, that's impressive, considering that one touchdown was kind of like a broken play where they blitzed at the wrong time when the screen was coming, and they were just outmatched on the edge, and the guy that Philly got the ball to was really fast. But the rest of the game, all they did was allow field goals, and they got after it. We'll talk about who got after it the most after I tell you guys about our sponsors at betonline.ag. Betonline.ag, with football season right here now, you'll want to get on all the gambling action on betonline.ag, the best online sports book. Get all the odds on records, stats, awards, season winners on the NFL season right now on betonline.ag. Pittsburgh fans, the over-under for your team's wins this season is set at 8.5, which means as long as Mike Tomlin's Steelers avoid their first losing season in his time coaching, you can win money easily at betonline.ag. You can also still bet on all the Major League Baseball action going on all throughout this summer. But before the next pitch or before the next snap, go to betonline.ag on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Head to the website and use your mobile device to sign up and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit by using the promo code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON, all capital letters, all one word, Locked On. Make sure you do that when you visit betonline.ag, because they are your online sportsbook experts. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter. we're finishing up things here, talking more about this preseason win over the Eagles. Again, the win isn't ever the really thing at hand here. It's not the thing that we're talking about the most. It's about what we saw out of different guys. Now, I just spent a whole bunch of time talking about the offense. I'm sure I will more all throughout this week. Training camp resumes Saturday, so I'll get to see them in person, and then you'll hear that from me on the show on Monday. But key people that stood out to me on defense in this game: Isaiah Loudermilk, the fifth round guy to Wisconsin that they traded up to get. He's starting to show a little bit of why. Now, again, nothing dominant, just against backups. But the guy had a sack. There was a play where it was a pass, and he realized he wasn't going to get home. He jumped up and batted the ball. Again, he's built just like Cam Hayward when it comes to size. And there was a really good play where he scraped the line of scrimmage, in run defense, held up his offensive lineman, and when the running back came his way, he put him down. Really solid reps from Isaiah Loudermilk. And in my opinion, he's definitely going to make the team. I think that was always kind of the case. But now we're talking about, man, some of those guys down in the lower depth charts at the defensive line, they better watch out because it's going to be slim pickings. You get Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward, Tyson Alulu right off the bat. But Chris Wormley, a veteran, I assume his job is safe. But what does this say for Isaiah Buggs? I think Carlos Davis has also looked very solid at times. Defensive tackle is going to be a very interesting camp battle the rest of the way. Other guys who I thought impressed pretty well. Alex Highsmith, for how little bit he was in there, you saw him bringing pressure. That's all you need to see. This guy is raring to go. Just keep him fresh every week. Give him a couple snaps so he stays warm. And then when the season comes, turn him loose. And I think that Alex Highsmith is going to get after it. But check this out. Quincy Roche also getting after it. Had a half a sack split with Isaiah Loudermilk. Really good stuff I've seen from him there. I'll tell you what, the biggest thing that I thought was alarming was Robert Spillane not looking as confident out there as a linebacker. He ran a blitz into the backfield and got picked up by a running back. And when I say picked up, he was blasted. This is the guy that went toe to toe and knocked down Derrick Henry at the line of scrimmage, and he's struggling with this now. Again, I think that's part of why they went and got Joe Schobert, was to answer some of these questions and allow Robert Spillane to just go into a more specific linebacker role that won't be all purpose as what's going to be asked of him if Devin Bush ever goes down. So lots of questions there. Other guys who stood out: Lafayette Pitts, a guy they recently picked up this past week, a former Pitt Panther. Actually, he had a really nice interception, breaking on the ball deep down the field. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but Mike Tomlin likes those guys that can create those splash plays. That's one of his Tomlinisms when he talked about splash. So he certainly made plays there. I thought Justin Lane, there was times that he struggled, but he had a really solid interception where the ball kind of came his way. He was ready. He caught it and, took and was able to move with the ball. Solid showing there. Nothing that I would, stop the presses about, but that's back-to-back preseason games where Justin Lane has been part of a turnover. Remember, he forced a fumble against the Cowboys, and now he has an interception against the Eagles. Let's see how he keeps going. I'm sure the coaches are taking notes on that and putting that all together. But another guy that I think really deserves some credit is Jamir Jones. He's the only guy of the night who had a whole sack by himself. And during that play, he ran in right into Henry Mondeau because it looked like he was late on his twist. But Quincy Roche had a half a sack, and he was my presumed fourth guy on the edge rusher position going into training camp. And then they signed Melvin Ingram. I'm like, okay, he's the fifth guy. But now there's a little legitimate battle. Jamir Jones may be pushing to say, hey, I deserve one of these phone calls. I deserve to be someone that you're saying, hey, you're going to stick around at the end of the season. Now, I'm not saying he's definitely going to make it because, again, you're talking about TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Melvin Ingram, potentially Cassius Marsh, who's looked much better in camp this year and even had a sack in the previous game against the Cowboys. And now you're talking about Quincy Roche, the team's 6th-round draft pick from this past year, who everyone was excited to get. And now Jamir Jones is coming. Tough picks. But these are what Mike Tomlin says are good problems to have. We'll keep evaluating how the Steelers performed in this game. I want to take a closer look at the film. I'll do that over the weekend, and I'll get back to you guys on Monday here on our YouTube channel, as well as our podcast channels on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Odyssey. Thanks to all those who are listening to the show and watching the show. We really appreciate you. I'm going to try to get this posted as soon as possible. So hopefully you're seeing this not too long after the Steelers versus Eagles game. Yeah, I want to get your thoughts. Get in the comment sections on YouTube. Ask me or to tell me what you think about the Joe Schobert trade. Is it enough for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense to become whole this year and to kind of continue its ascension in the NFL? We will certainly find out in a few weeks when the NFL season kicks off. But that's all we have it here from the Locked On Steelers podcast. Remember, I'm your host, Chris Carter. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Odyssey. Rate us 5 stars with a positive comment, and you get a special shout out at the end of the show. Be back in your ears on Monday after we get a couple Steelers training camp practices in. I'll give you all my insights on them. We're right back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.